Bella had always been drawn to the curve of a woman's smile, the way their voices softened when they laughed, how their hands moved when they spoke with passion about something they loved. She'd catch herself watching the barista at her favorite coffee shop, mesmerized by the graceful way she steamed milk, or finding excuses to linger at meetings just to hear her colleague Sarah's throaty laugh. There was something about women that made her heart race in a way that Chris, sweet as he was, never could. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. If she were honest with herself, really, truly honest, she'd imagined running her fingers through another woman's hair, feeling the softness of lips that weren't chapped from forgetting chapstick, sharing quiet Sunday mornings with someone who understood the unspoken language of glances and gentle touches. She wanted to hold hands without it being a performance, to kiss someone and feel her entire world shift on its axis. But those were dangerous thoughts for someone like Bella Whitmore, whose family name adorned buildings throughout the city, and whose every move was scrutinized by society pages. At 24, she was the perfect daughter on paper, beautiful, accomplished, dating the right kind of man, and working her way up in the family's real estate empire. Bella had inherited her mother's classic beauty, voluminous hair that fell in soft waves past her shoulders, striking blue eyes that could appear ice-cold in boardroom meetings, but sparkled with warmth when she genuinely smiled, and the kind of effortless elegance that made designer clothes look even better. At 5'7", with a runner's lean build, she commanded attention wherever she went, though she'd learned early how to use her looks as both shield and weapon in her family's world of high-stakes business and social climbing. The irony wasn't lost on her that Chris Martinez, her supposed boyfriend of 2 years, was the only person who truly knew her. They'd been best friends since high school, and when the pressure from her parents about settling down had become unbearable, he'd offered himself up as her beard with the casual generosity that made her love him, platonically, of course. "You know," Chris said one evening as they sat in his apartment, practicing their couple routine before another family dinner, "sometimes I think we're too good at this. Your mother asked me about ring shopping the other day." Bella nearly choked on her wine. "She what?" "Relax. I told her I was waiting for the perfect moment. Bought us another few months." He grinned, his dark eyes twinkling with mischief. "Though I have to say, your acting has improved. You almost convinced me you were attracted to me at last week's charity gala." "That's called method acting," Bella shot back, throwing a pillow at him. "I pretended you were Charlize Theron." Chris caught the pillow and laughed. "I'm flattered by the comparison, but we both know you're more of a brunette type." He wasn't wrong. Bella had a weakness for dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold secrets. She'd had her share of discreet encounters over the years, carefully chosen women who understood the need for privacy, brief affairs that left her breathless and wanting more, but knowing she couldn't risk it. The annual summer party at the Meridian penthouse was supposed to be just another obligation. Marcus Webb, one of her colleagues at Whitmore Properties, had invited half the city's young professionals to his rooftop paradise. The June heat had everyone gravitating toward the infinity pool and hot tub that overlooked the glittering skyline. Bella stood at the edge of the terrace, nursing a gin and tonic and wishing she were anywhere else. Chris was mingling by the bar, playing his role perfectly, as always, giving her the space she needed to breathe. "Not a fan of crowds?" The voice was warm honey over gravel, and when Bella turned, she felt her breath catch. The woman beside her was stunning in an effortless way, dark hair pulled into a messy bun, olive skin that seemed to glow in the evening light, wearing a simple black dress that somehow looked more elegant than anything else at the party. "Not particularly," Bella admitted, surprised by her own honesty. "I'm Bella." "Florence." The woman extended her hand, and when their fingers touched, Bella felt a familiar electric spark. I work with Marcus at the architectural firm. I've heard your name around the office. You're the Whitmore heir, right? Bella tensed automatically, but Florence's tone held no judgment, just curiosity. Among other things, Bella said carefully. Florence smiled, and it was like watching sunrise. Don't worry, I'm not about to ask you for investment advice or try to pitch you a project. I'm terrible at networking anyway. What are you good at, then? Besides designing buildings that won't fall down? I make a mean mojito. I can recite every line from The Princess Bride. And I have an encyclopedic knowledge of true crime podcasts. Bella found herself laughing, for the first time all evening. That's quite a skill set. It's gotten me this far in life, Florence said with a self-deprecating shrug. Though I have to admit, I'm feeling a bit out of my depth here. This is definitely not my usual scene. What is your usual scene? Dive bars with excellent jukeboxes, hiking trails at 6 in the morning, bookstores where you can get lost for hours. Florence paused, studying Bella's face. What about you? What's your scene when you're not being the perfect socialite? The question was dangerous territory, but something about Florence made Bella want to take risks. I like quiet places, coffee shops where nobody knows my name, late-night drives with the windows down, museums on rainy days. Sounds peaceful, Florence said softly. And lonely. Their eyes met, and Bella felt the familiar pull she'd learned to suppress. But tonight, with the city lights twinkling below and Florence looking at her like she was worth knowing, suppression felt impossible. Want to get in the hot tub? Florence asked suddenly. I brought a suit, just in case. And it's getting crowded up here. Bella should have said no. Should have made an excuse and found Chris and gone home to safety. Instead, she heard herself saying, I'd like that. The hot tub was blissfully empty, tucked into a corner of the terrace with a perfect view of the harbor. Florence had changed into a simple navy one-piece that highlighted her athletic build, while Bella wore her trusty black suit, conservative enough for her family's standards, but flattering enough to make her feel confident. The water was perfectly warm, and the bubbles provided a welcome barrier between them and the rest of the party. They could still hear the music and laughter, but it felt distant, like they were in their own private world. This is better, Florence said, settling across from Bella with a contented sigh. I was starting to feel like I was suffocating in there. I know the feeling, Bella murmured, sinking deeper into the water. The heat was making her feel loose, relaxed in a way she rarely allowed herself in public. They talked easily about travel, books, the peculiarities of their respective families. Florence was from Oregon originally, had moved to the city for work, and fallen in love with its contradictions. She was funny and smart and refreshingly direct, and Bella found herself forgetting all the reasons she should be careful. Can I ask you something? Florence said after they'd been talking for nearly an hour. The party was winding down, fewer voices carrying on the night air. Shoot. Are you happy? The question caught Bella off guard. What do you mean? I mean, you seem, I don't know, like you're performing all the time, like you're playing a role. Florence moved closer, close enough that Bella could see the flecks of gold in her dark eyes. Even now, you're holding back. Bella's heart hammered against her ribs. You don't know me well enough to say that. Maybe not, Florence admitted. But I know what it looks like when someone is hiding parts of themselves. I've done it too. What were you hiding? Florence's smile was rueful. The fact that I'm more interested in women than men, for starters. Took me until college to stop pretending otherwise. The admission hung in the air between them like a challenge. Bella felt the walls she'd built around herself trembling, threatening to crumble entirely under Florence's steady gaze. That must have been freeing, Bella said carefully. Terrifying at first, but yes, eventually freeing. Florence reached out, her fingers grazing Bella's wrist under the water. What about you, Bella? What are you hiding? The touch sent shockwaves up Bella's arm. She should pull away, should make some excuse about getting back to Chris, should remember all the reasons why this was impossible. Instead, she found herself leaning closer. I'm hiding that I wish I were brave enough to be myself, she whispered. Florence's smile was gentle, understanding. What would your self look like? Someone who doesn't care what other people think. Someone who kisses who she wants to kiss. And who do you want to kiss? The question was barely a breath between them. Bella could feel Florence's warmth, could smell her perfume mixing with the chlorine. Her entire body felt electric, alive in a way she'd forgotten was possible. You, Bella admitted, the word falling from her lips like a prayer. Florence moved closer, her hand coming up to cup Bella's face. Then kiss me. When their lips met, it was like coming home and falling off a cliff all at once. Florence's mouth was soft and warm, and tasted like the strawberry daiquiri she'd been drinking. Bella felt years of suppressed longing pour out of her as she deepened the kiss, her hands tangling in Florence's wet hair. Florence responded with equal passion, pulling Bella closer until there was no space between them. They kissed like drowning women gasping for air, desperate and hungry, and completely lost to everything but each other. They were breathing hard. Bella felt tears mixing with the chlorine on her cheeks. Hey, Florence said softly, wiping them away with her thumb. What's wrong? I can't do this, Bella whispered, even as every cell in her body screamed in protest. You don't understand my family, my job. I understand more than you think, Florence said firmly. But right now, in this moment, can't we just be ourselves? Before Bella could answer, they heard footsteps on the terrace. She jerked away from Florence instinctively, but not before catching sight of Jessica Chang from the marketing department, her eyes wide with surprise and undisguised interest. Oh, Jessica said, her voice carrying clearly across the water. I didn't realize anyone was still out here. I was just looking for my purse. Of course, Bella managed, her voice sounding strangled to her own ears. We were just cooling off. Jessica's smile was sharp as a blade. It looked like you were warming up to me. The next few days passed in a blur of anxiety and regret. Bella threw herself into work, avoiding Chris's concerned questions and pretending she didn't notice the whispers that seemed to follow her through the Whitmore Properties offices. Jessica, it turned out, was as fond of gossip as she was of designer handbags. By Thursday, the rumors had apparently reached critical mass. Bella's assistant knocked on her office door with an apologetic expression. Your mother called, she said carefully. She'd like you to come to dinner tonight. She said it was important. Bella's stomach dropped. Did she say anything else? Just that your father would be there too, and that you should come alone. The Whitmore family mansion in Pacific Heights had always felt more like a museum than a home. But tonight it felt particularly cold and unwelcoming. Bella found her parents in the formal dining room, their faces grave. Sit down, Isabella, her father said without preamble. Richard Whitmore was a man who'd built an empire through careful calculation and an absolute intolerance for scandal. There are rumors circulating about you, her mother added, her perfectly manicured hands folded tightly in her lap. Eleanor Whitmore was a study in controlled elegance, but Bella could see the tension in her shoulders. Disturbing rumors. Bella felt the familiar urge to deflect, to lie, to do whatever it took to smooth things over. But Florence's words echoed in her mind. What would yourself look like? What kind of rumors? She asked instead. Don't play games with us, her father snapped. You were seen at that party, behaving inappropriately with another woman. In public, Isabella. Do you have any idea what this could do to our family's reputation? To the business?" The disappointment in her mother's voice was almost worse than her father's anger. "We've given you everything, Bella. The best schools, the best opportunities. Is this how you repay us?" Bella took a deep breath, feeling something shift inside her chest. The rumors are true. The silence that followed was deafening. "I'm gay," she continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I've known since I was 16, and I've been hiding it because I was afraid of exactly this reaction." Her mother's face had gone pale. "That's impossible. You're dating Chris. You've been together for 2 years." "Chris is my best friend. He's been covering for me because he loves me enough to help me live a lie." Bella stood up, surprising herself with her steadiness. "But I'm tired of lying. I'm tired of pretending to be someone I'm not, just to make you comfortable." "This is unacceptable," her father said coldly. "I won't have this kind of behavior associated with our family name. You'll end whatever phase this is, and you'll marry Chris as planned." "It's not a phase, Dad. It's who I am." "Then you're no daughter of mine." The words hit like a physical blow, but Bella forced herself to remain standing. "If that's how you feel, then I guess we don't have anything more to talk about." She walked out of the house where she'd grown up, her parents' shocked silence following her into the night. Florence's apartment was a cozy contrast to the Whitmore mansion. Warm lighting, overstuffed bookshelves, plants in every corner. When she opened the door and saw Bella standing there with red-rimmed eyes and a hastily packed suitcase, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled her inside and held her while she cried. "I'm sorry," Bella said when she could finally speak. "I didn't know where else to go. Chris is out of town, and I couldn't face going to a hotel." "Don't apologize," Florence said firmly, smoothing Bella's hair. "You're exactly where you should be." They spent the next 3 days in a bubble of domestic intimacy that felt both foreign and perfectly natural to Bella. Florence worked from home, giving Bella space to process what had happened while still being available when she needed to talk. They cooked together, watched terrible movies, and talked until the early hours of the morning about everything and nothing. On the third night, as they lay curled together on Florence's couch, Bella felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Peace. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop," she admitted, tracing patterns on Florence's palm. "For you to realize what a mess I am and decide this isn't worth it." Florence turned to face her, her expression serious. "Bella, look at me. I've been out for almost a decade, and I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. You're not a mess. You're brave. It took incredible courage to do what you did." "I don't feel brave. I feel terrified." "That's what makes it brave," Florence said, leaning in to kiss her softly. "Doing the right thing even when you're scared." Their lovemaking that night was tender and desperate. Years of longing poured into gentle touches and whispered endearments. Bella had never felt so seen, so completely accepted for who she was. In Florence's arms, she finally understood what it meant to be home. The spell was broken on the 4th morning by insistent knocking on Florence's door. Bella, wearing one of Florence's oversized sweaters, peered through the peephole and felt her heart stop. "It's Chris," she said, turning to Florence with panic in her eyes. "And my parents." Florence squeezed her hand. "It's going to be okay. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." When Bella opened the door, her mother immediately pulled her into a fierce embrace, tears streaming down her usually composed face. "Oh, sweetheart," Eleanor whispered. "I'm so sorry. We're so sorry." Richard Whitmore looked older than Bella had ever seen him, his usual commanding presence diminished by obvious regret. We were wrong, Isabella. Completely wrong. Chris, standing slightly behind them, gave Bella an encouraging smile. Turns out your parents love you more than they care about what the country club thinks. We've had 3 days to think about what matters most, her mother said, pulling back to look at Bella's face. And what matters most is you, our daughter, exactly as you are. We don't care who you love, her father added gruffly. We just want you to be happy. Florence appeared at Bella's side, slipping her hand into hers with quiet confidence. Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore, I'm Florence. I'm very much in love with your daughter. Eleanor studied Florence for a moment, then smiled, the first genuine smile Bella had seen from her in years. It's lovely to meet you, Florence. I can see why Bella cares about you. Does this mean I'm officially fired as your fake boyfriend? Chris asked with a grin. Because I have to say, the pay was terrible and the hours were ridiculous. Bella laughed through her tears, feeling the last of her walls crumble. Consider yourself free to find someone who actually appreciates your charms. Finally, Chris said dramatically, I was starting to develop a complex. 6 months later, Bella stood on Florence's, their, apartment balcony, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold. The morning's gossip columns had featured photos from the Whitmore Foundation's annual gala, where Bella and Florence had made their official debut as a couple. The headlines were predictably dramatic, but Bella found she didn't care. Florence wrapped her arms around Bella from behind, pressing a kiss to her temple. Any regrets? Bella leaned back into her warmth, marveling at how perfectly they fit together. Only that it took me so long to be brave enough for this. We had to be ready, Florence said simply. Both of us. And now? Now we have all the time in the world. As the last light faded from the sky, Bella felt something she'd never experienced before, the absolute certainty that she was exactly where, and with whom, she belonged. The girl who had spent years hiding in the shadows had finally stepped into the light, and it was more beautiful than she'd ever dared to imagine.